It's really about the process. Snatch is much more about technique and of course endurance, but it's a lot more about technique than it is strength.
You can't go all out every day with it. You can probably lift a lot more than you think you can.
You can only do what you can do. Unfortunately, with fitness and with strength, it's something we need to keep up for a lifetime.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Strength Connection podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kurkowski. So grateful that you can join me today. What an honor it is to connect with this world champion woman, Lorna Kleidman, 6-time world champion kettlebell athlete and 6-time Master of Sport International class, joins me on the podcast today. This has been a long time coming. We've gone back and forth quite a bit. We finally got a chance to connect, and it was truly an amazing conversation. So Lorna spoke deeply about her early experience training 2 times a day, 7 days a week in cardio, till she found a coach who introduced her to strength training. And eventually she caught the bug of kettlebell sport, becoming one of the greatest champions in that sport. So Lorna's approach to her own training, as well as how she helps women find their best selves, is truly inspiring. So with that, we'll get right to it, guys. If you like this episode, you want to show the podcast some love, please rate and review it wherever you're listening. And don't forget to subscribe. You can catch all new episodes that are dropped every week. All right, thank you very much, guys. Now let's get on with the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. And Lorna, I feel like I've known you because I followed you for so long, but it's so nice to meet you finally. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Michael. It's great to meet you too. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, as I was saying, I first heard about you and your work from Denis Vasilev when I got a chance to talk with him. And he was telling me about you, Brittany, oh God, sorry, Brittany, I'm going to butcher your last name. Schravendijk. Yes, I think.
Right.
And Kelly Manzone. And I got to see the work that you were doing. And I was like, wow, like she is going after it in GS, which is awesome. Yeah. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So to kind of kick this off, there's quite a few different topics I want to dive into you with, like your personal competition history. I mean, 6-time world champion in sport. And then also the work that you do now, specifically working with women in your business and stuff. But to kind of kick this off, a little bit of an introduction, like how did this all get started for you? Kind of like the origin story of, you don't just wake up one day and you're just a world champion of everything in here. I know there's a big journey going forward. So
big journey.
Yeah. How did this kind of all get started for you and get you into the world of kettlebells?
Well, when I moved to Florida for a couple of years back in 2005, and prior to that, I'd been taking fitness classes at a gym locally in Westchester, and I was literally taking 2 classes a day, 7 days a week for a decade. I was doing aerobics, high impact aerobics, step classes, body sculpting classes, yoga, boxing, anything and everything. And through those years, I was able to overcome asthma, which I had exercise-induced asthma. It took a long time, but I loved movement. I loved the camaraderie of the women, the people in the class. I loved the instructors. I loved just learning technique and moving, especially with boxing. I loved the mental discipline of it. So fast forward, I moved to Florida and I was looking for classes to keep up my conditioning. And, I was of the mindset, even though I was about 35 years old, maybe a little older, I was 39 at that point. And I thought, well, if I miss a day or 2 of these classes, of these high cardio workouts, I'm going to start gaining weight and get fat. Ridiculous mindset, right? And I wasn't really lifting weights. I didn't know about strength training at that point. It was just all cardio and conditioning.
Sure.
So I couldn't find any great classes that I liked or that were at the caliber of what I had been taking. So somebody from New York had recommended a trainer in Florida, and I met him and he turned me on to kettlebell fitness. As a matter of fact, he was the co-creator of Kettlebell Concepts, which is a huge educator in kettlebell fitness.
Yeah. Okay.
So I started training with him twice a week. And then he found out about kettlebell sport, because at that point it had just started to come to the United States. He got wind of it. And then he said, I think you might be good at this. You should look into it. And because he believed in me and lit that spark, I went out to California to meet a gentleman who became my first coach. And I started training, and I did my first competition 8 months after I met the coach, and it went well, and I got the bug, and I said, well, I'm curious to know what else I can do with this and how far I can go. And I just continued from there.
Wow. Okay.
That's how it all started.
When you were doing, I mean, 7 days a week, twice a day type stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like, I mean, a lot of us, I mean, as coaches, like, yeah, we know that feels like overkill, but the mindset that you can get into at that point, was it just that you were so like used to this routine that it was almost like it wasn't even a thought anymore? Like, I need to do this, or otherwise like things are going to spiral down this bad path.
Yeah, it was just totally overkill, but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. On Saturdays, I'd be in the gym for almost 5 hours. And if I had a date and somebody invited me to a matinee or a brunch, I was like, no, I'd go into a panic because I didn't want to miss any of my classes. I mean, I was really that committed to classes. I mean, it was nothing productive. It was just, but I still, my conditioning became very, very good. Yeah. And that helped me then when I started kettlebell sport. I didn't have the technique. I didn't really have much strength, but I had the conditioning. So that was one factor, one element that I had going into it.
Sure. Kind of one of the boxes you have to check off when you get into those challenges.
Exactly.
So it's interesting because I understand that mentality. I think a lot of people, I think so many people undertrain that they don't realize what overtraining really is. But if you are going from somewhere where you have something like asthma, or like you haven't been able to exercise, then all of a sudden you do something and you start to feel the benefits of it. You just, it's so easy just to maximize and stay in that zone. Even if down the line, it's going to eventually be a detriment, the benefits of it right off the bat are huge. I was
young enough to do it and keep up, and I didn't get injured or anything. And I was definitely able to keep up at that age. But then the trainer who I met in Florida, before he came back to New York, he actually instilled in me the benefits, because he started to teach me how to lift weights, how to lift a barbell and along with the kettlebell. And he instilled in me taking days off. And I was like, no, I don't need to take days off. What are you talking about? I've got to keep up every day. He was like, no, you'll be better if you take a day off now and then. So then I learned because he worked me hard. And then the harder I worked, the more, especially with weightlifting. I mean, you can do cardio every day, but when you're lifting weights and you're changing your physiology, you do need that recovery time so you can get stronger.
Yeah. And how hard was that, like that transition for you? I mean, going from every day, like 3, 4, 5 hours possibly into a few days a week, like was there some nervous energy around those off days for a bit, kind of in transition?
No. Yeah, a little bit. I would do yoga. I would do something, or I would take a walk, or there was, but I learned I would actually feel tired because I would start lifting weights and I was still a novice at that. So the nervous system was being peaked in a different way. So I did need the rest, and I started to appreciate it.
Yeah. When you kind of made this transition from, kind of cardio queen into more of the kettlebell work and strength training there, did you feel the benefits really quickly? Was it like an instant change that you felt in your body, or was it a gradual kind of development where you're like, oh, wow.
Gradual.
Was it?
Yeah, it was gradual. I still, it was gradual. I was doing the weightlifting because he said, you really should be getting stronger and doing weightlifting and not doing so much cardio. So I really respected him. He was super knowledgeable. And I was like, okay, so I just did what he suggested. And I enjoyed now a new mental challenge of lifting weights and focusing on form, whether it's a deadlift or a clean, or how to lift weight properly. So I enjoyed that mental focus.
Yeah, it's that weird difference of that mental strength that comes into play when you actually have to focus on that technique and that form. When you were with kind of Kettlebell Concepts down in Florida, was it like sport work? Was it the same movements, or was that more when you went to California and you started doing more GS?
the gentleman who was the co-creator of Kettlebell Concepts, he was teaching me more fitness movements.
Okay.
I was learning presses, push presses, figure eights, bottom ups, things like that, renegade rows with the kettlebells. But I started to really learn snatch when I went to the coach in California. And back then, the competitions were mainly held, well, in the US, they were held by Valery Fedorenko, but I hadn't met him yet. So the other organization was an international organization called IKSFA, which then morphed into IUKL.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if you don't know about it. That was the international organization at that point, was IKSFA. And back in 2007, women were only doing snatch. There was no long cycle, no single arm long cycle yet, and they were only allowed to lift up to 16 kg. So that's where I started, was snatch, 16 kg. That's where there was no 20 kg, 24 kg for women. So it was like really regimented, and that's where I started. And then I loved, then I went into long cycle later, but my preference has always been with swing snatch.
A swing snatch. Yeah, I remember when I talked with, I think it was Moran earlier, who's, been in the GS world over in Ireland for a long time. It said the same thing, like there was only the snatch and then all of a sudden the long cycle came. I forget the reasons why, like they just didn't think that it was possible.
For long cycle, I'm not sure why they didn't want to, something about the breast tissue. They didn't want to injure with, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, something really silly.
And it was only 16. It was only, so the first
16 kg. Yeah.
Okay. So your first competition was that with the 16K?
Right.
Okay. And that went well, you said?
It went well. It felt good. And and then I was like, okay, when's the next one?
I catch that bug, right?
Catch the bug. But for me, it's never really been about, I like the process. I love the process of training, and I love the problem solving, and I love the physical and the meditation of it. I don't like competing as much as people would think I do. I really, that's not really why I do it. I like to make goals. I definitely have milestones I want to reach, but it's really about the process.
Okay.
I love the process.
It's interesting. I mean, because people would see you and see your resume of world champion multiple times over. I mean, many people who are in that zone, ultra competitive, like they're looking to gain over and over. You really kind of went the different way of looking. It's curious. You said that, like the problem solving of it. Well, can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean by that, of kind of getting into the process and the problem solving?
Problem solving. So with the lifts, especially with snatch, it's a free flowing movement. It's a very big movement. And depending on your strengths or weaknesses of your body, whether you need more cardio, whether you need more stability in your overhead position, whether you need more push from your legs, the weaknesses will show, or grip strength, or if you have small hands, it's going to be challenging. But the other thing is, snatch is much more about technique and of course endurance, but it's a lot more about technique than it is strength. So working on the elements of technique, it requires a lot of problem solving and figuring out what works for your own individual body, or what tempo works for you, or what breathing works for you. So a coach may indicate this is how it's to be done, but there are many variations that you can experiment with. So that's where the problem solving comes in. And then of course, learning, if you don't hit a milestone, if you don't make your goal, or if you don't do well at all in a competition, which has happened, it's like, why? Figuring out why. So there's problem solving there too, at the, before you start to set up your next training cycle.
Right. That's interesting. That's such an interesting way of putting it, because, you can train, but then all of a sudden, probably when you're in a challenge, when all of a sudden that bell rings, it's like, and you're on the clock, some things change from there. So if you don't have because things could go wrong at that time. Oh my God.
Yes.
I think that the first time I remember just doing a hardstyle snatch test, I'm like, I thought I would start getting tired at like the 40th rep. And it's like, no, you start getting that heart rate up around like 20, 25. It's like, oh crap. If you think that everything's going to go exactly how you envision it, you're setting yourself up for deep
That's
failure.
right. That's right. And the thing is to stay calm and breathe. And you don't want to go out of the gate too fast either. and burn off that energy too fast, because then you won't have it on the back end. So there's a lot to consider.
Yeah. So when you kind of caught this bug and you started going more into competition, did you kind of minimize your focus of other things that you were doing? Like when you were doing like the kettlebell movements, but more for fitness, where you said you were doing kind of yoga on the other days. Did you still kind of keep that process going, or did you focus just on sport for a while?
What I did was I changed my focus to sport 3 days a week. So whatever coach I had would give me, and typically it's about 3 days a week of training, maybe 4 days for most kettlebell sport athletes. And then I started working with a strength and conditioning trainer. So I have a coach giving me my competition training with the kettlebell.
Okay.
Then once a week, I would see a trainer and do barbell work and the rower and the, all kinds of literally strength and conditioning to keep my body sound, strong, healthy for the sport. And I still see the same trainer. I've been with him for 15 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You heard it here, buddy. Okay. Even world champions have coaches. Everybody get a coach, please.
Coach and a trainer. That's right. I think the GPP, the other kinds of training is very important. Very, very important. Some people don't do it. Some kettlebell sport lifters I know just do some cardio. Maybe they'll run and then they just do the kettlebell lifts. But for me, I think the strength and conditioning in addition is really important. And I like the variety of, I don't want to just do the bells.
Right, exactly.
Like a variety of other lifts.
Yeah. Well, I think it is. It's interesting because I know some people have gone so deep down at that, like that's all you do, like you just focus that. And no matter what you do, if you only specify on one thing, you are probably going to miss a little bit of that GPP, from it. Just by, even if you're just doing single arm work, you're going to probably lose some bilateral based movements and stuff like that from there. So a little bit of that GPP, even like once a week, that just seemed like it kind of kept that foundation strong for you.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one, so after that, when was the first world champion run that you did? Was it quickly after that, or was it a few years till?
So the first competition was a world championship with IKSFA, the first one. And then my second one was also an IKSFA. And then I think I started competing more locally with Valeri's competitions, which were also great experience, great learning. And without having to travel to Europe or anywhere overseas.
Okay.
So then I started just doing both, like wherever there was a competition, if it was local or if there was a world championship, I would go.
Okay. So you were doing the 16. When did you move up? When was it? When did you start bumping up to the 20 and the 24K?
I think 20 kg was maybe my third year in. And then I had met, after about 6 years, I'd met all my goals with the 16 and the 20 kg. And I played around with the 24 kg, but my body tends to gain muscle when I lift heavier. I tend to gain muscle. I get more hypertrophy, and I didn't want to. I was very conscientious about, my traps and my legs getting bigger and my waistline getting thicker. And so I thought, well, I've met my goals. I don't really want to do the 24 kg. And I'll just retire. So I stopped competing. I stopped training, but I would lift on my own. I'd lift the kettlebells, either the 16 or the 20 once a week, just to keep the neural groove working.
Right.
Then I was at a seminar with IKSFA, which my dear friend Alexander Kaysen created, and Coach Sergey Rudinev is a partner with him. And I was an assistant coach. I was helping to teach with Rudinev. And on a break, we were talking about different female lifters who were doing the 24 kg. And he said something like, the serious female lifters lift the 24 kg. And right then and there, I said, oh my God, now I have to do it. And he wasn't saying it to me, but he said it.
Sure, yeah. He was saying it around, yeah.
And it was after that I said, okay, I'm going to go back in and with the intention of going with the 24. And that was years ago. So I'm still with the 24, trying to get my numbers up.
Okay. Was that the biggest jump, the 20 to the 24?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. That's a big jump, especially with endurance.
That's a big jump. It takes a long time to adapt to it.
Yeah. So when you said you have your specific goals that you're going in, that was interesting. Like when I talked with Denis Vasilev, he said the same thing. Like when he went in, he wasn't worried about hitting number one or like whatever. Like he had a specific rep goal that he was aiming for in every challenge, and that kind of kept his cadence going in that. Did you have a similar kind of process going into any of the competitions? Like, all right, it doesn't matter what anybody else does. Like this is my goal that I'm trying to get to.
Absolutely. Because you can only do what you can do. If I'm going up against somebody who's much better than me and can do 30 reps more than me, I can't match that. So I have to do my best on that day and hope that I reach my personal goal. But if there's somebody better than me on the platform and she's in my weight class, unless she falters somehow, she's going to beat me. But sometimes, there was one competition where it kind of took the edge off, knowing that there was a much better lifter in my weight class. She was competing, and I was like, oh, well, that sucks. But it took the edge off, and I did really well. I came in second, and I was happy with my performance. And that day, I made a PR for myself, so it was good.
Yeah. It's interesting. What's the competitions like? Is it pretty much like it seems like it's not really a cutthroat type competition. Everybody's really kind of cheering for themselves in kettlebell sport. Is it a pretty deep camaraderie on all those competitions?
Yes. The teams. Yes. You have your team, USA team, and they cheer for you, or they cheer for the lifters, the USA lifters that are on the platform, or they cheer, it's really a nice, bonding community. It's really nice. No, whether you're lifting 8 kg or 32 kg, everybody is struggling on the platform. Everybody's trying to put up one more rep. So we all know what that what that experience feels like.
Right.
And so we're all working it together. And it's really a nice community. It's not cutthroat like that at all. It's not cutthroat.
Yeah. This is what I love about strength competitions. I talk with my friend Danny Casey, who owns New York Weightlifting Academy, and he encourages like everyone in his gym, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, to compete in a competition, because the camaraderie, like everybody's like, when it's an individual thing in strength, it seems like whether it be, kettlebell sport or Olympic weightlifting or even strong. I went to a Highland Games event, and everybody's just so excited for everybody else, even if they beat you and you don't, but like you said, like you did your best, they did your best. It was a little bit better for that day. It's like, there's something about the strength communities in competition that feels like different than like a regular sport where it's like one team against another,
That's right. It's individual. And we all know what the person's going through on the platform, and we cheer them on to get those extra reps at the end or stick through it. And when they want to quit, and it's really nice.
That's so cool. So I want to ask you about because I believe you still hold, if not, you did hold the 10-minute snatch record with the 24K for females on that day. I forget the number of reps that you did, but you hold that record. What was that day like? Was that just were you aiming for that, or was it just you really felt good that day when you hit that record?
I have the national record for 24 kg with 169 reps. Now here's the thing. That was done in 2020 when the competitions were online.
Okay.
So I want to surpass that at an actual live competition, of course, because, online, it wasn't easy, but it's still easier than doing it in person at an actual live competition. So there were 2 years where all the competitions were online. So I achieved that best result online.
Okay.
Right. In an online competition. So I want to be able to do that again at an actual competition so that it's completely legitimate.
Okay. You said it's easier online than it is in live person?
For me, it's a little bit easier because I'm in my own surroundings.
Oh, okay.
There's, yeah, for me, it's easier.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think some people might say like the crowd and stuff like that, and that mark might fuel you a little bit more. You're kind of the opposite though.
I'm the opposite.
That's interesting. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Cause I know, like, I mean, training for myself, I mean, I can gear myself up pretty good, but like an energy around, it seems like it kicks another gear in, to there. So, wow, you're in your own element when you're in your own space.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
So that's something I want to hit. That's my objective, is to hit or surpass that at competition. So that's what I'm training for.
Okay. Do you have a date that you're aiming to do that, or is it just when it feels right?
Well, no, I don't have a date. The training, I have to build up my numbers. I have to build up my endurance right now. And so I don't have a date that I'm going to hit that. It's going to happen when it happens, but I'm training toward that.
Okay.
So yeah, I have I have 3 competitions coming up before the summer, and we'll see.
Nice.
We'll see. Yeah.
When you go into the competition, like you said, the big jumps, like for the 20 to the 24, like that's a big jump in there. Is there one part that's more of a struggle with the jump than others? Is it the grip strength? Is it the conditioning? Is it just the overall? Is it just kind of overall just a lot more challenging?
For me, it's overall energy. It's just the glycolytic output.
Yeah.
It's overall energy to move that weight for a sustained amount of time. And then it's grip too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Intervals are helpful with that. So when you're going to a heavier weight, intervals are really helpful. So doing a minute or 2 minutes each arm, take a break, and then do it again, take a break. That helps to condition the body and get it used to the volume of work. But then going into longer sets, 4 minutes each arm or 5 minutes each arm, for me, it's the overall energy, and then it's the grip. Sure, the grip is going to be the weakest link for most people.
Yeah.
So especially when going into a larger weight, the interval training is going to be really important to get the person to get accustomed and adapt to the heavier weight.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And I love hardstyle training. I absolutely do, but I always crack up talking with competition because we do like a 5-minute snatch test. You can change hands as much as you want from there. It's like when you're doing like
totally different.
When you're doing 4 or 5 minutes straight on one arm with this, it's like just the grip strength. Like my forearm's starting to just fill up with blood right now, just thinking about that.
It's a different animal. It's a completely different animal. And yeah, it's very, very challenging. It's harder than people realize.
Yeah. Well, I can see the technique of it is so
very
vital
important.
When you get into, because I could see if your technique's even off a little bit, like, if you do like 5 reps or 10 reps, maybe you won't feel it as much. But if you're doing 3 or 4 minutes straight, every little bit off right there, it's going to feel it over time.
That's right.
That's crazy. So now, do you have your own business and you work with women in fitness? Have you been a coach this whole time, or is that something that you've built up recently?
I've coached. You mean kettlebell sport coaching?
That, but I mean, you also do you work specifically with women in health as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Since the pandemic, I've transitioned to mainly online. Now I see people in person. I'm in Connecticut now. So I do see a few people one-on-one in person if they're local, of course. But I've transitioned everything to the online space as of the pandemic. And, I noticed as I was getting older, that there's a real lack of quality training for women over 40 and especially over 50. There aren't many people leading the charge for women and examples of strong women who have good conditioning, who aren't just saying, do yoga, do spinning, do Pilates. Well, why can't we still lift weights? It's going to keep you injury free. It's going to keep your bones strong. It's going to keep you able to hike. I have a client who loves to travel. She travels all over the world, Morocco and Iceland, and she travels all over South America. She just came back from Uganda, and she did a trek in the jungle to see the gorillas. And she went with her husband. She's 62. And she came back, and it was an arduous trek, especially coming down the mountain.
Yeah.
And she said to me, your training kept me in shape, and I want to go back and do it again. And that's why I strength train, because I want to keep doing these kinds of adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to keep doing this kind of stuff, I know I need to stay strong.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm offering. So whether it's hiking or skiing or just picking up grandkids from the floor or what have you, I found that there is just a lack of really solid training and information for women over 50. And that's why I wanted to fill that space.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with kettlebell sport. It's like, that's my passion. If you want to have kettlebell sport, I'll help you with that. But my business is helping women with strength and conditioning, being injury free, and providing them resources for their health, for hormone replacement, for things like that, is all part of healthy aging.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about that. Like when you first speak with women that are coming and they're interested in talking to you about, getting coaching, are a lot of them, have they never done strength training before, or very inexperienced, or they did the wrong things? What are normally the conversations like with women that are coming to see you right off the bat?
Most of the women who are coming to me have done fitness classes. And I can, I'm like, I've been there, fitness classes. Now they're doing yoga. They were doing some HIIT classes at different gyms, but they don't want to throw themselves around anymore. They don't want to do the burpees to the ground anymore. Like the 20 and 30 year olds were doing, so they're doing HIIT classes. They may be getting a strain in their knee, or they're feeling this or that. And so they're looking for customized, proper one-on-one training now.
Yeah.
And that's so a lot of them did work out, or they used to run, but then since the pandemic, many of them are saying, I just lost the consistency and I want to get back on track. That's mainly what they're saying. They may have been active, but they want to get back on track and have that accountability of knowing that they have their weekly or biweekly appointment and that we're going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I used to work at more of like a commercial based gym, and we had like the fitness classes, the aerobic classes, and everything was about like keep the weights light. I think most of them, because the coach, they just wanted everybody to walk out of there and not get injured, with it, that. But it's like it still kind of promotes this stigma that like you can't lift heavy weights. Like that's more of the risk that you're going in, when it's like, if you build it up and you have, the patience of it and you work on some technique and you get it in, it's such a night and day difference of what you can do when you actually lift something heavy, versus like a burpee. People think like a burpee is safe because it's the body weight. I think it's one of the most injury prone exercises you can possibly do, especially if you don't move well. It's like get a kettlebell or get a barbell and learn how to deadlift properly. That's going to give you so much more benefit. That's right.
And then with the women who I see online, many of them don't want to belong to a gym. They don't want to work out on their own. So I suggest certain pieces of equipment, maybe a kettlebell or two or three pairs of dumbbells, a square stepper, a couple of gliders and bands, and we make it happen. So they have a minimal investment of equipment. The equipment doesn't take up a lot of space. They don't have to have a barbell rack. They don't have to have, anything expensive or fancy. They don't have to buy a Peloton, and we work, and it's really effective. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. What's the biggest struggles that they have? Is it, like you said, the consistency of it? Is it they don't know what to do when they're at home? Is it just the lack of accountability that they have, or is it a combination of both? Like what are those struggles that you see mostly with women?
It's both. It's not knowing what to do in terms of full body workouts, and just relying on maybe an app or, something on YouTube, right? Where they're doing the same thing, the things that are easy for them.
Yeah.
And the second thing is they don't know how to push themselves, because who wants to go into the discomfort, right? Who wants to go into the discomfort zone? Not many people want to do that voluntarily. And that's what you have a trainer for. That's what I have a trainer for.
Exactly. Yeah.
To push me. I need to be pushed. Everybody needs to be pushed. I have my clients say, I would have never pushed myself like that. And I would have never thought that I could do 12 push-ups when I first came to you, and I could hardly do 2. I would have never pushed for those extra 2. So it's not knowing what to do. It's going to the default of their, what's comfortable, what's easy for them. And then life takes over, whether it's seeing their kids or, planning parties or traveling or whatever. It's easy to just put the fitness on the back burner or say, I'll get into it next week. So unfortunately, with fitness and with strength, it's something we need to keep up for a lifetime. It's not something you can just, bank, work out for a week, put it in the bank, and then you can, take out your withdrawal next month. You have to keep putting those deposits in.
Yes.
So, the consistency is paramount.
Yeah. I love that analogy of the deposit on it every day. And I say, do people do they think that they need to do more than they actually do? Do they have any kind of idea about how many days a week? Cause I've had some people come in and they think 2 or 3 days a week, that's I need to do more than that. When it's reality, it's no, if that's what you have, if that's what works best with your schedule, you can do a lot in that time. With consistency, do people struggle with knowing what their schedule's or how much they need to do?
Sometimes I find my younger clients, those in their 40s, they'll do the strength work, but then they feel like they should do cardio on the alternate days, or they should go for a 6-mile walk. I'm like, if you have time,
right,
and you enjoy it, then you can do it. But you have 2 kids, you work full time. So it's not like you have to. You don't have to. If you enjoy it, do it. But you don't have to make changes, to stay lean, to stay strong. You don't have to do that extra stuff. The women in their 50s or 60s that I see, they get it. They're like, I'm giving 3 days a week. And that's enough. And so they get it. They're like, I found my sweet spot, and 3 days a week is enough. They don't try to overdo it.
Yeah. I love that. The pandemic and when we were in lockdown taught me a lot about that. I use the analogy with my clients of the highway of strength, where it's you have the right lane, the middle lane, and the left lane. Where if you think the left lane is pedal to the metal, that's when you're pushing it hard. You're passing other cars, much more focused. Middle lane, somewhere in the middle. But then the right lane, that's the carpool. It's the easier workouts or so.
Yeah.
And I said, regardless, each one might be at a different speed, but you're all moving forward.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I realized that when I first started my own business, and I was just in a mode where I couldn't push as hard as I used to before. I just had a lot of mental energy going in different areas. So started doing some more intuitive training where, doing some 50, 60%, type days of volume, and realized over a longevity term, I was still making progress. It wasn't the same progress in the moment that you feel. And that was holy shit, been doing this for 15 years and still learning kind of how to program and work with that.
Modulate it. Right. That's right. I mean, 50, 60% effort or volume is not nothing. It's still something.
Yeah. Well, and I assume too, probably probably even things leading up to a sport competition, you can't go all out every day with it. You probably have those easy days when it's a technique day. It's a different type of, focus in there. And I think often, especially with, an older population in their 50s, 60s, even 70s. I have a client who's 80 years old and still trains 3 days a week, doing her work, taking care of her house. Beautiful. It's absolutely amazing.
It's so inspiring. Yeah. It's very inspiring.
Yeah. But I think we can very easily limit what we think people can do, specifically with strength training, where it's no, you can probably lift a lot more than you think you can. You need technique. You need to do it the right way. But you got a lot more in the tank than you think.
That's right. Once people learn the form and the proper way to move, then the strength comes pretty quickly. And then I have another offer, which is as of the pandemic, I started the LornaFit video membership. So it's a monthly membership, and members get access to a library of 4 different levels of workouts 16 different types of workouts. So some of them are kettlebell workouts. Each kettlebell workout has a tutorial before the workout to break down and show the person how this particular movement is done. And then there are dumbbell workouts. There are body weight only workouts. There's cardio boxing workouts. So plenty of work, all these workouts that I create programs for, I film it. Then in part of their membership is also stretching, warm-ups, tips for nutrition. So that's another adjunct. So if somebody works with me once a week and they want another, platform to work off of, they can become a video member. And then with the same pieces of equipment that I suggest for their training, they can work the videos.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's really cool. Are a lot of people do they naturally want to sway towards kind of kettlebell work with you, or is it more like what they have available?
I asked them if they've worked with kettlebells, and some people have, some people haven't. Most of them are open to it. And we start with non-ballistic moves like presses or just deadlifts or holding, goblet squat, like really just holding it and moving your body and getting used to this weight with a handle. So I really haven't had anybody say, I don't want to work with kettlebells. But most people are open to it. Yeah. And then they find it's really fun. Yeah.
I do. I mean, I can't say it at all without any bias because that's what I do too. But for home-based workouts, like it's such the perfect tool for things at home because you can it's so versatile in so many different ways of working.
Exactly. That's
right. When we had our studio here and we, shut down, we kind of loaned all of our kettlebells out to all our members. I was like Santa Claus going to different people for a bit. And we kind of, our team, when we were together at that time, we're like, all right, if people only have one kettlebell at home, what can they still do with everything? And it kind of forced us to be really creative with different ideas. And what you kind of realize is it took out all the bullshit of like the complexities of stuff when it's like, all right, if this is what you have, if it's a little bit too heavy for this, do this. If it's a little bit light for this, do this. And it's like, there's always a way to work around it. And I think especially as clients, just knowing, like sometimes they think like, oh, if I don't know this, I don't know the progression of the regression. So it's like you get in that kind of like that stuck status quo mode where like, oh my God, I'm not going to do anything because I don't know. It's like just having that availability and knowing it.
Right. And being creative. Yeah. Especially since, like you said, since the pandemic, and if we don't have access to gyms, what are we going to do at home?
Exactly.
Right.
So Lorna, this has been a blast connecting with you. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been great to get to know you. I really appreciate you talking to me.
Me too. And I just want to promote Kelly Manzone and Jeff Butterworth, who's in Boston, Massachusetts. We are holding a competition, the first New England Kettlebell Classic for 2023. And I'm just reading, it's going to be Saturday, March 25th in Massachusetts. Nice. And then there's going to be a workshop with the three of us the next day on Sunday, March 26th. So I'm going to teach an hour of snatch technique. Kelly Manzone is going to teach an hour of stick mobility. And then Jeff's going to teach long cycle. And you can register separately for the competition or for the seminar, the workshop the next day, or you could do both. So we've got that blasting around social media. So if anybody's interested.
That's so cool. What part? We're in Massachusetts? In
Boston, yeah.
Oh, in Boston?
Jeff's prescription strength, RX strength gym.
Oh, I might need to plan to make a trip down there and drive over and see you guys. That would be absolutely awesome.
I'll send you the link. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I'd love to meet you in person.
Absolutely. No doubt. And if people want to check out more of the work that you do, what's the best place that they can reach out to you, Lorna?
My website is LornaFit.com and Instagram is at Lorna Kleidman.
Perfect. Awesome. Lorna, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Listeners, go follow Lorna and I'll catch you guys very soon. Peace.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to the Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.